Java with Joe the podcast is brought to you by Kemba Credit Union, celebrating over 90 years of quality service to our membership. Sponsored in part by First Choice Coffee, the official coffee of Java with Joe, and Real Vision. And now your host, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance, Joe Hinson.
Thank you. We're with Aryn Wickline, Regional Director of Admissions and Marketing for CareSpring Healthcare Management. Welcome, Aryn.
Hi, thank you.
Happy to have you here. So, Aryn, you're from the Springboro, Ohio area, is that correct?
Yes.
And you started working at CareSpring in 2007, shortly after high school, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Boy, so this basically has been somewhat your entire career then.
Yes.
Yes. I saw that you graduated with a bachelor's degree in marketing from Southern New Hampshire University. So the question is, Springboro, local, started working here. Why Southern New Hampshire University?
That's a great question. So they have a really strong online program. And I was working for CareSpring full-time, and I was raising my children. So that flexibility allowed me to go to school and work and be a mom.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. Well, obviously it was paid dividends for you. So I was going to ask the question what brought you back to this area, but you never left.
Nope.
Which was really nice for you that you were able to continue to work. That
Yep.
sounds like, obviously. So let's get right to it then. So what is CareSpring?
So CareSpring Healthcare Management is our parent company that owns and operates 18 skilled nursing facilities and assisted livings throughout Ohio and northern Kentucky.
And so what was it about that industry and about CareSpring for you that said this is something that I wanted to work at, an organization I wanted to work at, but an industry you wanted to stay with?
I grew up in long-term care. So my mom's a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And she always worked in long-term care, so it was just very familiar to me. She works for CareSpring as well, so she sort of helped me get that job as a receptionist right out of high school. And I fell in love with our company and our culture.
Mm-hmm. So CareSpring provides skilled nursing, memory care, rehab, independent and assisted living options, correct?
Yes.
So pretty much the full gambit of support. And with 18 locations, I'm sure each one is a little different. And providing that type of service. You started working at CareSpring after high school as a receptionist at the Hill Spring location. So why don't you tell us about the different positions you've held with CareSpring?
Yeah, so receptionist. And then I was what used to be called the administrative assistant, which is now our business office coordinator. I was an inside admissions representative, so helping families through the admissions process internally. And then I became an outside admissions representative where I worked with the hospitals. And now I am the regional director of marketing and admissions.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so you got your bachelor's degree in marketing. So basically you've worked your way up and have kind of aligned yourself with that degree and then basically in the industry you wanted to be in.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, that doesn't always happen, but you were able to stay with the company you started with and be able to get into that role. So that obviously has worked out very well for you.
Yeah.
That's good. So your founder was Barry Bortz. So I think that people that might be viewing us maybe know the Bortz name in the community. So tell us a little bit about Barry from your experience.
So Barry was a Marine. So if you visit many of our facilities, the legacy buildings that were the ones that he founded, you will see the Marine flag flying in his honor. He founded, like you said, in 1986 Eastgate Spring down in Cincinnati. And he really founded CareSpring on the ideal that we create an environment where we provide care that feels like family.
And from what I understand, because I've met Barry before, he started into this industry because of his mom.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my understanding, I wasn't there then, but
Sure.
my understanding is that he, his mom needed care and he could not find a facility that met his standards of what care should look like. And so that is what he created.
Yeah, he was obviously very passionate about the industry and passionate about obviously providing that type of service because of what he experienced with his mom. And his legacy obviously continues to live on. So, Aryn, let's talk about the admissions process.
Yeah.
Someone wants to get started. This is new to them. How would they get started if they have a loved one and there's an interest and obviously a need for them to get this type of care?
Absolutely. That is an overwhelming process. So that is what we are here for. There's a lot of different ways they can get in touch with us. So they can go on our website. We have a feature where they can schedule a tour online, or they can call and ask to speak with our admissions specialist. And we can schedule, the first step is a pre-admission meeting. And that's where we really sit down and talk about, what you're looking for, and determine whether or not our facility is a good fit for that. Does that make sense?
Yes. And so you can give them a tour, either virtually or basically on site. When they come and they start the admission process, is it obviously it's a pretty thorough process, but a lot of questions are asked. Some they might have answers to, some not, but there's somebody there to kind of help them through the process. Is that what you do? You have others obviously in the organization that help with that.
Yeah, so there's a multi-phase in the admissions process, right? So there's pre-admission, which is where you're looking to place your loved one. That's where you work with the admissions team. So that's that pre-admission meeting that I mentioned. And then once your loved one is actually being placed, you work with an admissions nurse,
Sure.
and they help you get settled into the facility
Sure.
and make sure all of your questions are answered then, and make sure it's a smooth process.
So once a loved one gets admitted, and then the process starts, there's also various family meetings that occur where you will have different people within your organization sit down and talk with the family about the progress and how things are, kind of an analysis of kind of a baseline, where you want to go and how the process continues. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we schedule care conferences with our interdisciplinary team and the patient and their family. So that, we'll cover anything from how they're progressing with physical therapy. Our dietitian may be there to talk about nutritional support, activities, to talk about their socialization, and social work to talk about kind of what our next steps are if the plan is to discharge back to the community,
Sure.
what we need to do to make that happen.
Sure. And so I know we haven't talked about this, but obviously when you're staying in the facility, you have meals. So you have, I guess you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's activities,
Yep.
if you can get out and get around, right? And obviously I think that's something probably that you and your organization would promote is patients getting out of their rooms, getting to be able to interact and mingle with others,
Yes.
and being able to partake in different activities that are presented. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so the goal, obviously, is to get the patient better so they can either go home, if that's the possibility of being able to do that, but surely during that period of time, being comfortable and feeling like there's kind of a home away from home.
Yes, exactly.
So you mentioned, obviously, there's 18 locations. What markets are you, or is this local, is it regional? Tell us of the different markets your locations are involved with.
So we have locations in Dayton. We have locations here in Butler County, Cincinnati, and Northern Kentucky.
And is all those locations your responsibility also?
So I service 8 locations, 4 in Dayton and 4 here in Butler County.
I see. Okay, very good. So obviously we talk a lot about the growth corridor in I-75, so you're basically from this area going north.
Yes.
The American Healthcare Association and the National Center for Assisted Living in July awarded prestigious awards to a number of your centers. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Obviously, something I'm sure you're very proud of.
Yeah, so the Commitment to Quality Award, 8 of our centers were awarded this year. There's different tiers to that. So the first tier is the Bronze Award. and then there's silver, and then there's gold. So we do
Sure.
have 2 facilities that won silver this year, and then the rest that are bronze. So
Sure.
we're very proud of that.
So you mentioned, obviously, well, again, 18 locations, every one being different in a different part of our region. But what can you say about CareSpring and sets CareSpring apart from others in your industry?
Well, that's difficult for me because I've only ever worked for CareSpring, and I don't have a ton of experience with other organizations. But from what I know, CareSpring, we're locally owned and operated. So our corporate office is in Loveland, Ohio. The majority of our executive team lives in Ohio or Northern Kentucky, so they can get to any of our facilities
Sure.
within an hour. And a lot of them are also by trade caregivers, so physical therapists, social workers, nurses. And I think that makes a huge difference compared to some other corporations where that maybe
Absolutely.
isn't the case.
So in essence, a lot of it has to do with the people that you have
Yeah.
and the care that you give to your patients over a period of time. So, we've talked about your responsibilities. You have 8 locations that you're responsible for. But specifically, let's talk about the Westchester locations, okay? So you have Heritage Spring, you have Chesterwood Village, and you have the Advanced Therapy Center. So first of all, let's talk about Heritage Spring.
Yeah. So Heritage Spring is located off of Liberty Way, and that facility offers both short-term rehabilitative services and long-term nursing care.
And so I'm familiar with Heritage Spring because I think that was a facility that was built initially under the CareSpring umbrella. Is that correct? And I say that because as we go to now Chesterwood Village, this is a recent acquisition by CareSpring. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Let's talk about Chesterwood Village.
Yeah. So Chesterwood Village, that has Chesterwood Assisted Living, Independent Living, and the Advanced Therapy Center all in one campus. And it was owned by the Hillendale Company. CareSpring did acquire that, I think, 2 years ago now. So we have been operating those facilities, and we're very honored to have been asked to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a really cool campus. I don't know if you're familiar. It's got, so the independent living, offers the opportunity for seniors to live kind of a maintenance-free lifestyle, right? Where they have access to healthcare and wellness programs and amenities while maintaining their independence. There's also assisted living that has those same amenities while also offering the support of caregivers and clinicians. And then, of course, the Advanced Therapy Center, which offers the long-term care and skilled nursing rehabilitation.
Yes, and the Advanced Therapy Center, also an acquisition,
Yep.
and very much a state-of-the-art facility. Let's talk a little bit more about that because for someone who is looking to receive therapy and it needs also housing too during that period of time, that's something that's really, I think, advanced and something that's really modern that provides the type of care that one needs to be able to get in, get to therapy, and then go on with their life.
Yeah. Some of the equipment there is really, really cool. And
Yes.
as a non-therapist, I can't go into defining what all that is. But yeah, if you've ever been over there and you've had the opportunity to see the therapy gym, it is very advanced.
Yes, it is. And so two good acquisitions, obviously, that added to your portfolio here in Westchester Township. And, we talk about healthcare. We see the growth of healthcare in this area. We have the 5 networks here from the Cincinnati market. We have 2 from the Dayton market, basically all in the Westchester Liberty area. So how important to CareSpring is having those relationships with those healthcare networks and those providers?
It's really important. We all have to work together to get the best outcomes for the patient.
Sure.
So.
And so is that opportunities of continuing to build those relationships, letting them know who you are, and I guess the process would be that if there is a patient that is needing of therapy, that they're familiar with who to contact and the process of moving that the patient from their location to your location?
Yeah, I think, our admissions team has done a really good job of establishing those relationships. I think there's always room for improvement, and so we just work on perfecting and fine-tuning the process that goes along with that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, choosing a healthcare facility for a loved one is one of the toughest decisions one can make. It's one of those things where, it's you don't necessarily want to think about it. Probably a lot of times not a lot of thought has gone into it prior to, but then you have to make some decisions based upon sometimes, right away where you had not prepared for it at all. So what are some of the things that our viewers might want to look for in thinking about and making that decision for a loved one if they need that type of care?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My advice would be don't wait until you're in an emergency situation to get familiar with the nursing facilities that are in your area. Most of them do have admissions representatives that will be happy to schedule a tour with you, so you at least know what options are out there. If you are in that situation, it's important to talk to your family and your loved one about what's most important to them, because that could be different for everybody,
Absolutely.
right? And once you identify what's most important, then you really know what questions to ask when
Sure.
you go in to look at these facilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question that comes up, and because we all went through this and we're on the other side of this, but obviously it affected healthcare, was COVID-19.
Yeah.
We would see hospitals and people in beds and sometimes overflow within hallways. But how did it affect your industry with not a hospital, but the type of care that you would give, and also the fact that now loved ones weren't able to see the patients and basically had to be isolated themselves from all the different activities that you provide?
Yeah, gosh, that was a tough time. So I was at Hillspring during that period of time, and when we had to lock down from visitors, we were able to do a lot of virtual visits. So that helped somewhat. And then we were able to provide a lot of one-on-one activities. So in the sense that, our focus of care sort of shifted from community to individual care.
Yeah, sure.
And it feels like a lifetime ago, even though it was only about 4 years ago. But yeah, we made a huge rapid adjustment in a very short amount of time.
Sure. And so now on the other side of this, have you seen changes that were made during the pandemic, ones that you've been able to move forward with and keep, and obviously others that have allowed you to get back to the way things were before? What does that look like today after the pandemic for your industry?
Yeah, I think it opened up a lot of really cool opportunities for, what technology can do. So telehealth visits, for example, was something
Sure.
that we had to do during the pandemic. And we kind of recognized, globally that this is something that's an option for patients who have transportation limitations.
Sure.
So that's one thing that has sort of carried through now that we're on the other side of it.
Yes.
It's been neat to see.
Yes, well, we're all happy we're on the other side of it, that's for sure. So as you think about your industry, specifically your locations that you're over, what can we expect from the 3 facilities specifically here in our area as we move forward? Healthcare has changed, costs continue to rise. You talked about pivoting and doing different things today, but what does that industry look like in moving forward, understanding baby boomers, one of the largest generations now, all aging around the same time? We're going to be needing that type of care, more facilities going up. We see that competition. There's a lot more competition out there, I'm sure. So, what is CareSpring doing and looking forward here the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see CareSpring going in relationship to the industry and the needs for the future?
Yeah, I think CareSpring will continue to grow, whether that be, potentially developing new facilities or assisting with acquiring other facilities. I'm not really sure, but we are really happy with our 18 facilities right now. And like you said, there's going to be an increasing need for the services that we're providing, and we'll be here to help those patients.
Very good. Well, this has been Aryn Wickline. She's the Regional Director of Admissions and Marketing for CareSpring Healthcare Management. Aryn, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Java with Joe has been brought to you by Kemba Credit Union, sponsored in part by First Choice Coffee and Real Vision. Thanks for listening.